Hello? Hello? Hey, hang on a sec. I'm just doing a bit of decorating. Let me, who is it though? Who's out there?
A horse skull.
What?
Kinda dressed up a bit with a sheet on and decorated with some flowers.
I'm sorry, what now?
I said I'm a decorated horse skull.
Oh, yeah, no, I heard that right.
People call me Mari Lwyd.
Horse skull named Mari Lwyd.
Well, technically, Mari Lwyd isn't my name, it's the name for the day when I come out. Much like Frankenstein isn't actually that monster's name either, but it's okay, I'll allow it so we can move on.
Okay, what do you want, horse skull, only kind of named Mari Lwyd?
I want to get in your house and drink your beer and chase your children around.
Oh, can I just politely decline that invitation?
The only way you can stop me is to battle me in song and win.
You want me to song fight you? What is this, the Zoolander of holiday traditions? Is David Bowie coming?
I believe I might be of service.
No, a well-dressed man and some puppets.
Oh, my sweet Lord, baby Jesus.
Don't worry, you actually can't win in the end. Eventually you'll run out of excuses and I'm gonna get in no matter what.
Horrifying. That is horrifying.
Actually, it's weirdly a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll try anything once. But just like, where in the hell did this tradition even come from? Like, what, like, this is a thing that people do?
Let's find out real quick before I get in there.
Yeah, that's fair. So it is probably unlikely that you've been on the receiving end of this exchange, but if so, it would mean that you've experienced the festive holiday tradition of Mari Lwyd. And you know, if there's one thing I've always said, it's that most of us are really missing out on having a song battle with a horse skeleton during the holidays. The very first emergence of the Mari Lwyd tradition is mired in the misty membranes of the past. We do know that the Mari Lwyd was first written into the historical record in the year 1800 in the southern part of Wales, but that's pretty much where the trail goes cold. Some scholars have pushed the idea that the Mari Lwyd was an ancient pagan tradition taken over by the festive capitalism of the modern-day Christian holiday celebrations. Some of that speculation comes from the name itself, which is also heavily debated. The Mary in Mari Lwyd is thought to mean either mare, like horse, or Mary, like the Virgin Mary. Holy Mary, mother of horse skeletons. One translation of the name Mari Lwyd from Welsh to English is grey mare, and that would make sense for the idea that it came from stories of the Celtic equine deities of the region, like Rhiannon, Maha, and Epona. Some of the stories surrounding these figures involve death and otherworldly elements, and so this is proof to some scholars that there's a connection to the Mari Lwyd, because there is really nothing more deathly and otherworldly than a singing horse skull at Christmas. The connection to the Virgin Mary comes from the fact that the Mary part of the name can either be Mare or Mary, and the fact that a number of other pagan traditions have also been absorbed into the Christian calendar through forced assimilation of non-Christians. Like how Samhain and Saturnalia and Floralia became Halloween and Christmas and Mayday, respectively. But if you happen to feel like the evidence sounds a bit tenuous, then you'd be right, because all the academic or archaeological evidence for these connections is pretty much non-existent. What we do have is the weird knowledge that in the British Isles around this same time, there were a number of these exact kind of hooded horse decorating and singing traditions happening. In fact, just a lot of hooded animal happenings in general. Every single one of the other ones has this same imagined history that has no real evidence to back it up. And in fact, the written origins for each of them is just also the early 1800s. For example, the Hoodening of Kent was once thought to come from a celebration of the god Odin, because Hooden is really Hodin or Odin, and then Woden was the early Germanic name for Odin. Again, super thin, just because all the words kind of sound the same. So we have the Hoodening of Kent. We also have happening at the same time in other regions of the Isles, the Broad of the Cotswolds, and the Old Ball, Old Tup, and Old Horse. All those horses are old. Weird. Okay, so we know that it isn't really an old tradition. It wasn't something the Druids pulled out through the portal at Stonehenge from the outer gods at the edges of infinity. Nothing like that. The most plausible origin for Mari Lwyd and these other traditions is simply inspiration from the obsession with hobby horses in the 16th and 17th centuries in England. Wait, what the f*** is a hobby horse? Oh, it's like a horse costume that you'd wear? Like as if you were riding a horse? Oh, or it's like the Mari Lwyd, dressing up a horse on a pole that you carry around. Okay. Hobby horses are associated with Mayday quite a bit, going back a good while in the UK. Someone on Mayday is also crowned the Queen of May, and here's a painting by John Collier done in 1900 of Queen Guinevere at her Maying. So there's really something here, potentially about women and fertility symbolized by mares and riding mares, and then making the horses involved into hobby horses over time because horses are expensive. And then flipping all that around for the winter festivals into warding off death and the bleak sadness of loss in the heart of the shortest, coldest days symbolized by the skeleton of a horse. And it's also decorated to shield you from the worst of its metaphors so that it's made to be fun. And the merriment and songs and celebration that are engaged in to bring community together in a time of real need. That's a potential evolution that really makes a lot of sense to me. The spectacle of the Mari Lwyd is at once mesmerizing, horrific, and jovial. It's a combo that evokes the surreal, along with a sense of wonder that takes you out of the harsh heart of winter as a villager in the early 1800s. The procession of the Mari Lwyd involves a number of people, always in a group. One who operates the eponymous horse, which is a skull draped in a sheet and carried on a stick. It's dressed up like the Queen of May, all in white, with flowers sitting on the skull like a crown. The person inside would be hidden, and sometimes they'd operate a pull string to open and close the moving jaw of the horse skull so it can playfully snap at passersby and children. The leader of the group would be the most formally dressed, and he would take the procession from house to house around the town. There would be a few other figures along for the ride as well, including some stock characters like the actual puppets of Punch and Judy, who were two slapstick characters who first emerged in British comedy in 1662, or else a couple members of the group might just be dressed up as the puppets. When the group reaches someone's door, they get the attention of the person or people inside, and then they start to sing. And I did not do a faithful recreation of this in my rendition because I'm not much of a singer, and I've always been in band, and I'm an instrumentalist by training. And I didn't want to burn your eardrums out or even your whole face off so that you could potentially be this year's Mari Lwyd skull. I mean, if you want that, then I guess get in touch in the comments. The song that's sung is in a call and response format. There are different versions of it in different places, and some variations are even lewd rhymes instead of songs, but the basic gist is that the Mari Lwyd gang starts by requesting entry into the house, and then the people inside have to sing or rhyme a verse back, making excuses for why they can't let the demon horse inside. Though I would personally think that that's, like its own excuse. Just a reminder that if you want to get into my house, or at least be around for more videos as they come out, then make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification button so you'll get alerts when something new goes live. Okay, so this call and response song or rhyme will go on until the people in the house can't think of another verse or another excuse not to let the group inside. What happens then is that the Mari Lwyd and the gang come in the house, and they drink all the alcohol inside, and they snack on whatever food is around, and together just have a really great time. It's like a miniaturized, localized Mayday celebration, kind of turned on its head. Because it's cold outside and it's warm inside, but there's lots of people in the town, so you have to go door to door to get the whole community involved. And that's what happens. The Mari Lwyd and its entourage wind their way through the streets with the demon horse in tow, and having song battles at every door, hoping to be let in to celebrate this tiny bit of joy in the long dark night. One thing you might be thinking of is that this reminds you a bit of Christmas caroling. And in fact, this does come out of a tradition called Wassailing, which is an Anglo-Saxon practice that stretches all the way back to at least the 11th century. And there were two types of wassailing, each of them performed on Twelfth Night. One where people gathered in orchards to sing and make noise in the hopes of warding off evil spirits so that the next harvest would be bountiful. Some of them might bang on pots and pans, and I always wondered where that New Year's tradition came from that I did as a little kid, when my dad made us all run out into the streets and bang on pots and pans and be generally obnoxious. I am sorry to my neighbors growing up. The other version involved traveling singers going from house to house and drinking toasts to good health and good fortune. Wassailing also happened in the Middle Ages, when peasants would arrive to sing to their local lord, and the lord would sing back to them. They'd ask him in song for food and drink, and he'd give them some as a gesture that they stay healthy and fit, presumably so that he could continue to work them to death in the next season. There was a holiday tradition in general of the poor singing to the rich in order to get some food and drink out of them. You can still hear the vestiges of this in the song We Wish You a Merry Christmas, particularly the lines, "Now bring us some figgy pudding," and "We won't go until we've got some." While wassailing isn't now what it once was, we do have it to thank for the modern act of caroling during the holidays. The Mari Lwyd has taken over our modern cultural imagination, particularly because it's been in the process of resurrection during the last few decades. It is entirely possible that for a good chunk of that time, just one guy named John Williams was doing it at all at the Barley Mow Inn near the town of Cowbridge. And we've since gone all the way from that to the Mari Lwyd now being a monster in the tabletop game Dungeons & Dragons. To recap, there is a tradition where a giant ghostly horse apparition shows up on your doorstep and forces you into a back and forth call and response song battle. Now this is probably the greatest thing that I have personally ever heard, and I hope that's true for you too. And I hope that you've learned some things here. Most importantly, I hope you've learned that you need to personally help keep the Mari Lwyd alive because it's only recently been rediscovered and revived. If you're watching this over the holidays, happy holidays. If you're not, then you still have plenty of time to source the skull of a dead horse and decorate it with found objects from Michael's and rehearse your favorite Wassailing songs in the Welsh language. I hope I see you outside my door this year. Okay, so yeah, admittedly, this is a channel that's centered around solving big problems, and there isn't really a problem with the Mari Lwyd other than it isn't happening at my house.